Evening, everybody. Third attempt here. Let's hope that this works. I don't know what's going on. Had a worry for a second that the camera crapped out on me, so restarted and everything appears to be going. It was a little choppy, but here we go. How's it going? It is Comic Crack. It's almost 11 p.m. here. I taught a course this weekend, and apparently I didn't get enough of hearing my own voice. I thought I would just record a little something and kind of chat about a couple of things. Um, I've still been reading Crossfire, and I'm digging into some other books as well now too. Got a couple of series kind of standing by reading. Sorry, not series. Got a couple of series that I'm reading, and I'm on issue 15 of Crossfire. I managed to find another couple of issues that I needed. I only need issue number 12 now, which is the Dave Stevens cover one, Marilyn Monroe on the front that Dave Stevens drew. And that one, as we were discussing before, goes for a couple of dollars. One of the issues that jumped out at me was issue 11 from Crossfire. Really enjoyed this. The further I get into this series, the more I'm really digging it. But this one was a pretty entertaining read. It's all written as a movie script, and we follow a character throughout it. I don't want to give anything away, so I'm not really going to tell you too much about the story itself. I just really like the way this one unfolded. I like the use of the movie script as the form of narration, mixed in with kind of what was going on in the moments. I thought it was pretty clever, jumping through time as well, using that as a tool to jump back and forth in time. It wasn't a complete surprise ending. You could see where it was going, but it was a really enjoyable ending when it did kind of close. I loved it. I thought this was a fantastic issue. I think this has been the highlight for me of this series so far. So yeah, I'm still really digging that series. The next one, I went to, there's a comic shop by the office. I went to have a look. We receive, we're lucky enough that we receive a bit of a Christmas bonus every year in the office. And I went to the local comic shop because he was having some sales on, and I had seen some graphic novels for the kids. And I thought I'd go when he had the sale on just to see what I could pick up for what kind of prices. I ended up buying them stuff. And then he had comic sets on sale. I think they were marked at 50% off, but he had, I believe some of the sets were up to 60% off. So I managed to pick up some comic sets that I didn't expect to find. The highlight for me being the entire Miss Tree DC run, the 10 issues. I think it cost me less than $1 a piece. I think this was about $9 for the set of books. That was after the discount. So that's pretty fantastic to pick these up all in one swoop. I only have 2 of these issues that I'd found previously, so having them all is pretty great. The first couple of issues, I don't know if there was some sort of water damage or what exactly was going on. The first couple of issues are in fairly rough shape. Just the covers, the interiors and everything look great though. Anyway, it's not too much of a concern because the important thing is I've got the stories to read, which I'm really excited about. I had to flip through a few of the issues, and it's just so nice to see Miss Treeback in all her colorful glory. And then number 1 there. So that was a really great find for sure. He had a lot of fantastic sets, and yeah, some really great stuff. Where's the rest of the books here? Another one that I'm looking forward to diving into. He had Shiva's War from Helix. I don't know if you remember a while back, Johnny Zero and I had talked about the Helix line, and we talked about a couple of the titles. I only had a single issue of this one. It's not one that I find anywhere, so I found that entire run for a couple of dollars. It's a 5-issue mini series, and it looks really, really fantastic. I'm not familiar with the name Christopher Moeller. I'm sure someone will comment down below, but I think the interiors look pretty fantastic. I think I've got most of the Helix titles now at this point. I might be missing, I think I'm missing some of the Michael Moore's Multiverse was the title, I believe. I think I'm still missing a couple of issues of that one, but this one looks like it might be a fun one. Yeah, comic sets seem to be the way to go for sure. Another one that he had was I'd heard this title before. Somebody had made comment on it on one of my videos before, this Neustralia, and I didn't fully realize that this was a Tim Truman effort. When I looked on the interior, though, his name appears for the cover art and layouts for only pages 1 to 3 on the interior of this one. So I don't know if he also co-wrote it. Having his name right in the title makes me feel like he did. It's from 1999, and it was a mini series as well from Innovation. So anything with Truman's name attached to it, I'm going to have to check out. To me, that really jumps out as a Tim Truman cover there. Number 4 and number 5. And then second to last set that I found was the Total Eclipse kind of prestige format, I guess that's called. I'm not really sure the title of it. So kind of like their Eclipses anthology that only lasted a few issues. And it looks like they're all, are they all Sienkiewicz covers? Let's have a look here. Yes, Sienkiewicz cover artist. So book 2, book 3, book 4, and book 5. So in these, you're getting the Heap, Destroyer Duck, Flying Dutchman, Clint the Hamster. What else do we have? Is this a Prowler story? Oh no, Air Fighters. Get a little bit of, looks like Miracle Man as well. I don't know if they're excerpts from the Eclipse series, or if maybe it's all the characters. Oh, here we go. So maybe that's not really what it is. Maybe it's not an anthology, because that looked like it was one story that had a bunch of different Eclipse characters. So maybe it's their answer to a kind of superhero Avengers type of team. That's possibly what we could be looking at there. My mistake when I was flipping through it. Yeah, because there's Prowler in there as well. Anyway, so that'll be great. I've only ever found this first book of this one, so got that whole series. And then finally, which I just wanted to talk about a little bit, is a book called, it's from the Eclipse International line. It's called The Lost Continent. And I'm just about to start book 5 of 6. And I just wanted to say a couple things about this one. It struck me almost immediately. And it's kind of taking a turn that story-wise, it's not taking a turn that I didn't expect. Art-wise, it's kind of taking a turn that puzzles me a little bit. So the thing that struck me about it, first of all, was the kind of sparseness of some of the images, and the fact that it looks like it's kind of traced photographs mixed with kind of a more traditional manga style, with some of the characters' faces. But it starts to take a turn around book 3, and then really apparent in book 4, where all of a sudden we're getting some pretty highly detailed pages and panels. So I'm not quite sure the backstory. The creator, from what I remember when I did a very, very brief search, did some video game design, I believe, and didn't do, I couldn't find a listing for a lot of comics anyway. But again, I just checked the Wikipedia page, which we all know how reliable those pages can be at times. The artist's name, Akihiro Yamada's Lost Continent, art and story by Akihiro Yamada, and then translated to English, lettered and retouched by Tom Orzechowski, originally published as The Last Continent by Tokyo Sanshisha. So anyway, about a journey to the center of the earth. There's a hollow earth theory with a lost civilization. Someone has entered this civilization and come back. The wreckage of their plane is discovered, and some people from this lost civilization have now kind of come up to our world to make sure that nobody finds them. You start to find out that there's kind of 2 different groups within this lost continent. One group that wants to keep the surface dwellers out of Mole City, keep the surface dwellers out of the center of the earth. And then seems to be another faction led by this woman here who want the surface dwellers to come to their hidden continent. We're met with some of the main characters who can shapeshift. This gentleman here, like those pages really strike me. I like the vegetation there. I like the way that's depicted. I really like the way that's drawn. There's some really real strokes of incredible art in these first issues. It's just sometimes a little jarring when you jump back to what looks a little more kind of like a traditional manga style with the faces. It's not jarring necessarily in a bad way. So this one character, I believe all of these, like I said, I haven't finished the whole series yet. The shapeshifters, I believe they can shapeshift into multiple different animals. This guy, however, keeps changing into this saber-toothed tiger. But later on, we discover them change into pterodactyls as well, too. So it leads me to believe they can kind of change into whatever animal they want. Stuff like that is really nice. And so a tiny bit jarring at first when it jumped to the more traditional manga style. But then, as you saw on that page, then we even have another style of character where it's a little more, I don't know if it's necessarily North American, but and then some of the detail really reminds me of kind of a Mobius style of that European type of art. So there's a really nice mix of styles, And then we get stuff like this, just kind of this burst of kind of graphic horror with a lot of sound effects thrown in. Issue 4 is almost entirely sound effects, so we'll just kind of skip ahead. And all the covers, I think, are incredible. There's the cover for book 3. And so this is book 4 here. Let me just flip to a few parts. Yeah, so for example, page after page of, I love the look of these pages so much. Just a tiny bit of dialogue, and then the rest is spectacular crashes and screeches and screams, and just onomatopoeias flooding all over the page, which I really get a kick out of. And then there's our pterodactyls that just seem to have a little more detail. Again, kind of matched with I don't know, a mix of realistic / drawn backgrounds. Again, looking like they're traced. Entertaining story. It's keeping me engaged enough. There you go. There's another killer sound effects page. These are just amazing to me. I absolutely love this. Kind of makes me think of something that Jeff Darrow might do. Just have an entire issue where there's no dialogue, just sound effects. So we'll see how it wraps up. I'm curious to see where this all goes and what the kind of final idea is behind it. Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I said 5 books. It's 6 books total. So fantastic to pick up, which kind of leads me to the final thing of I'm not going to go over a 2018 list right now, but it does. I've been thinking about it, and I did talk about it in the last video. I think as kind of I've revisited when I do these type of videos at the end of the year or the beginning of the new year, this idea of how focused my collection is getting, that continuing with that theme, I think I'm going to be going down the Eclipse path. So I think for this next year and for this foreseeable future, there will be a title here and there that I want to kind of complete, but I think I'm going to be moving towards just trying to tackle the Eclipse titles. I did one of the local shops that I don't go to as much. One of the shops that I don't go to as much, he's got an entire box of Eclipse titles, or 2 boxes of Eclipse titles. A lot of them that I have already, but there's a bunch that I don't have as well. So I'd like to try to pick those up over time. And so I started putting together, I'm going to do a paper, an actual book this time. So I've started putting together, there's a couple of websites that that give you kind of the Eclipse checklist, where you can go through and see exactly what they published, how many issues of everything were. So I've started kind of making a file of that. I printed off most of it at this point. I'm not finished kind of compiling everything yet on the computer, but just kind of going through it and crossing off what I do have, and going to use that as my kind of hard copy of my checklist as I go about my business, trying to get the rest of these suckers. So I think that's going to be where I go from this point on. I'm just really enjoying the Eclipse books that I've read in the past and the ones that I'm reading now. Like I talked about in the last video, it's great to have the Scout series done, so that's kind of set aside as well, so I can finish that one up. But right now it's Crossfire and Lost Continent that have all of my attention, One of the other ones I did pick up, I picked up a few issues of Saber with these incredible Gulacy covers for the first couple of issues. And for the first, I don't know how many issues, the first couple of issues anyway, it's Gulacy interiors as well. And I read this one the other day when I bought it. And the story isn't really hitting it off for me. It's interesting enough. It's fairly convoluted. Um, it's kind of setting, as is the way with first issues, it really spends a lot of time setting the tone and setting the world. Again, we're kind of looking at a post-apocalyptic, a post-Trumpian era, where things have kind of gone to shit. Separation of the classes and all of that. So Saber is kind of an anarchist who's going around and fighting the man and making love to the women. And then just randomly we get an insert kind of poster, which cracked me up for some reason when I first flipped to this page. It's just okay so far. It's not blowing me away. What is kind of turning me off going much farther is just looking at a couple of issues ahead where Gulacy doesn't do the interior art. The interior art takes a very sudden and drastic decline, and the art style just does not appeal to me. But I'm going to give it a fair shake. I can't remember how many issues of this there were. I don't know if it was just 12 or something like that. I don't exactly remember. We'll kind of see. So I mean, it's Don McGregor and Paul Gulacy for the first couple, and McGregor is the writer throughout. So there's still a little bit of hope. But yeah, like I said, when I jumped ahead to kind of flip through a couple of issues just to see the art again, it didn't grab me, to say the least. So glad to have them though. Always great to find this stuff. Has anybody read Saber? Another from Eclipse Classics that he had in the bins, a square bound in brand new condition, called She. H. Rider Haggard, Fast Fiction, She, from Eclipse Books. Reprints of some older material. I'm not familiar with the Eclipse Books kind of almost graphic novel type of format, and even Eclipse International. I don't know if I've come across any Eclipse International titles in the past. But so we get some of the reprints of the comics, and I'll just show you a couple of pages here. This one kind of jumped out at me when I first. It's so brand new. It's incredibly stiff, this book. Like nobody has gone through it. It just kind of went straight into a bin. And then at the back, you get a little bit of a biography of Henry Rider Haggard, the Dark Continent and the Civilization of Ancient Egypt. Get a bit of a write-up. So it might be an interesting read. Just another look at the interiors there. Very Charles Burns type of shadowing on those faces there. Let's see, does it say? It's not saying. Fast Fiction Volume 1, She by H. Rider Haggard. First printing July 1988. But like I said, I'm pretty sure it's reprints from earlier than that, unless I'm wrong about that. So yeah. And Eclipse Noir, True Crime. I think there was only 2 issues of this one. So I don't normally go for this kind of thing, to be totally honest. The price was right, and it was Eclipse. I honestly, can't say that I will read this one. It just is not really subject matter that appeals to me that much. Don't really want to read about the first female serial killer or John Gotti, to be totally blunt. I don't care that much. It's like going out of my way to read something about Charles Manson. Not really in my wheelhouse. And then a couple of Eclipse books that I have never seen before. Stormwatcher issues 1 and 2. I believe this was just a 4-issue miniseries, or was it? Yeah, 4-issue miniseries. It says right at the top. Interiors aren't as striking as the cover art is. I really like the cover art, but so that'll be interesting to dig through. Another one that showed promise just purely from the cover, and when I opened it up was completely disappointed. Eclipse Comics, a little bit of a different logo as well too. I don't know if this was then early in their publications or if this was later. Let's see, 1993, so that would have been later. And finally for the, well, no, not finally, actually. The last couple of things for Eclipse. I'm now just missing one issue from this Laser Eraser and Press Button series, which I'm looking forward to reading. I've got the first series as well too, so I'm looking forward to getting all those at once. And this one I've read really good things. Detectives Inc. Don McGregor and Gene Colan. This is the second miniseries, A Terror of Dying Dreams, which apparently, from what I've read, it's just an incredible 3-issue series. He only had the first 2, but I grabbed them anyway. Apparently, out of the Detectives Inc. stuff, this is the story to read. These 3 issues are apparently the one to look for. So I'm very curious to get into that. Interior art. Kind of doing the mystery one color and a kind of unusual choice of colors, but the art is really fantastic in it. Sorry, I have some pop-ups coming here. The art is really appealing to me, and it's really great. It looks like it's almost kind of not rough sketches, but maybe the first pass with some detail before it kind of goes to be inked, and I like that quality. I like that. I mean, it's not that it's not as rough as maybe I'm making it sound, but it retains some of that quality for sure. It doesn't look super crisp. Looks like it's still kind of being worked, but it's in some of the final stages, which I do like quite a bit. So yeah, that'll be a great one to dig into as well. And again, it's one of the things that I'm just kind of excited to be reading this era of comics, and I'm really excited to have a chance to get some of these books, to find some of them locally. I managed to find some Evangeline as well too, which I won't really talk to you about. What was the other one? There was also just a couple of Witching Hour books as well for $1 and $2 a piece, so I couldn't let those sit there. It would be a crime. And the one House of Secrets that I picked up recently had a pretty incredible cover there, so couldn't let that go to waste. And finally, thanks to Oddfellows Thoughts and Damien on the round table. Oh, this was another nice surprise. Aardvark Vanheim in 3D with the glasses in it as well. Thanks to the round table 1 week, I just had tuned in, and they were still talking about the final issue of this miniseries, The New World, and I was completely taken by the art immediately. And when I had to go get some bags and boards, the comic shop that I normally go to, Galaxy Comics, he had they had all of the they had all 5 of the issues, so I was able to grab them all at once. I've read 3 of them already, kind of immediately. As soon as I got home, I sat down and started reading, and absolutely love it. And they're right. Definitely the most engaging thing about it is the art. There's no doubt about it. It's incredible stuff. Really, really kinetic. Really, really colorful. Um, Very unusual looking people. At times, it kind of reminds me uh, of some kind of a little bit of that pop art kind of sensibilities. Um, and for some reason, right now, I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, very, very striking stuff. And really, really glad, which is the great thing about, especially about, maybe not especially, but I really enjoy about people like Damian and Travis who are still sticking with the new comics. Um, they both still read the superhero stuff, but they both really have an eye and a sense of what's going on with the independent books, which I've always respected and I've always gotten something out of. So very, very glad I happened to tune in just at that moment. I never would have known about it. And it was a fantastic score. As soon as I saw it, it was a no-brainer that I had to pick up that book. So thanks very much, Travis and Damien. I appreciate it. Other than that, that's about it. So thanks very much for tuning in. Thanks in the future, your future selves, for watching and commenting as usual. And we'll talk to you soon.